Oh, wow. Hey. With all this talking about the Schumann toccata and stuff, we have guests, Mark.
Yeah. We're not going to play that earlier part.
Yeah, we're probably not.
We use some words that would have to get bleeped out.
Well,
we're speaking quite favorably about
Pogorelich.
And
the Schumann toccata.
We're talking about the toccata. It was a very famous recording and performance he did of it. And he does it with no pedal, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But I got it. Howard always said that I had a pretty good stretch. You know, he said I had a pianist's hand. Rubinstein was bigger though. He could reach a 12th if he wanted to, and 10ths were easy for him. 10th is pushing it for me, which is what some of those yaga jaga 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 jaga, and it's supposed to be legato, right? Yaga jaga 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 jaga. I can't do it. I mean, I kind of learned the piece years ago just because I thought, you should know the toccata.
But if you're playing in a large hall, you could probably get away with doing staccato.
Because of the ring, the echo. But anyway, I don't do it because it hyper extends the hand, the carpals, and don't do it. And so then while we're hatingly admiring of Pogorelich, he plays it without the pedal, which is extraordinary. Yeah. Another great performance, though, famous one, is Levine. Levine's performance. He uses a pedal, but it's really lovely the way he does it. Anyway, we're back. This is a slowish year for us. We're not doing it every week. Elmer's had various things to do, and my partner and I, Laura, we're getting over a respiratory infection. It's mostly gone now, but there's still a lot of... Well, and then we got allergies, and we've been getting some of the smoke particulate from the Canadian fires down here. And then...
Nothing against Canada.
There's a whole different story which we won't go into, but shoulder problem. But it'll be fixed. But anyway, our boys are here with it. Oh, God, we haven't seen you for a long time.
Yeah, well, I missed you guys.
Yeah,
we missed you guys.
Well, we're looking forward to the show.
Oh, good.
And so we got Grobu and Igor and Tuki. They're here to watch the show.
Yes. This wonderful gentleman over here.
I'm Mark.
Yes, the dignified
man with a nice outfit and the short haircut is Mr.
Elmer.
And we are
Mark
and Elmer's PSI, Piano Scene Investigations. So I bet this boy's got a lot of pianists and stuff.
Oh gosh, we do. Before we do, we have to do this.
Here goes the promo.
Yes, this is... As usual, this is Corey's Piano Polish. Hopefully you guys have finally gotten some for your pianos. Keep it nice and shiny and healthy. Okay? In case the playing's not quite up to par. Not saying that it isn't, but just in case, at least the piano should look good, right?
I just spit on mine, but you don't recommend that. Huh?
Oh, I do not recommend that. Absolutely not.
No, actually, my dad was a great believer in just lemon oil.
Yes.
But the real thing.
Yes.
Not like lemon polish crap like that, but true lemon oil.
Yeah. He's not talking lemon pledge, folks.
No way. No. And then if you use that stuff, it's going to really seriously sponge up your finish.
Yes.
Don't use that kind of stuff on your piano.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's a devil to get it out. Because then my dad would charge him, I don't know how much more, but when he would tune the piano, they said, can you shine it up? He'd get out his lemon oil, really like polish it. But it took a lot, and the rags were so filthy with the crap that was ingrained in it.
Yeah. So, Folks, if you've been watching the current events, the Van Cliburn Competition is back on again. After 4 years, we have a whole new crop of pianists, and you know, I'm gonna step out on a limb here. With the way that the competition is these days, I tell you, if you're playing in this competition, I don't think there are any losers. There are no. I mean, you make this competition, you've already won. You've already won. You're playing. You know, you'll be playing to probably the largest audience, you know, anywhere. I mean, this thing's being live streamed, and you know, people who are into classical piano are going to be watching.
Well, how many did they start out with? Is it 70 some or 40 some? When they the first round.
The first round?
How many people was that?
Oh,
quite a few, right?
28.
Only 28?
28.
That's what they start with.
That's the preliminaries. It's 28.
Wow,
that's
and you know there's a lot more that try to.
Yeah, then there's the auditions before that, because they listen to hundreds of auditions.
That's what I thought.
Hundreds of auditions. There's different locations in the world where they just send representatives to go listen. I don't know if they still do that. Maybe you have to send an audition via internet to the people, and they, you know, they contact you. But
they're down to the finals now.
They're down to the finals.
Six of them?
6 of them, and we will find out who are the top players tomorrow.
Elmer is Mr. Competition. I'm not so keen on it.
Now, when he says Mr. Competition, I don't mean I play, okay?
But he's
I like
fascinated
to watch.
with him.
Yes, I mean,
and he knows a lot about the history of these things.
And besides that, I mean, I watch it, you know, mostly because, I don't know, I venture to say that I probably have the same enthusiasm as sports fanatics.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'll watch.
And that, for me, is a little bit of the unfortunate thing about the competition aspect. Is I don't think art should be, you know, 2 teams sparring off for winning the baseball game.
But it's not like that. I mean, for some people, they might look at it that, but if you look at it, they're much more.
I think it's interesting when you talk about this. I was thinking way back when Anton Rubinstein was one of the first really, I mean, there was Liszt, there was a few other people, but there's Liszt, and then there's probably Anton Rubinstein, probably. He's one of the great world pianists, right? He founded the Moscow Conservatory, and I think
St. Petersburg,
and they already had the Leningrad or the St. Petersburg. But then he started the Moscow, and his brother taught at one of them.
Yeah, he did.
What was his name? Nicholas.
Nicholas, and they look like brothers.
But the interesting thing is, you know, a lot of, well, I don't know, not a lot. Some do, some don't.
Yeah.
Claudio Rao, for example, he really didn't care for competitions.
No, he did.
I think he did judge once in a blue moon, but he didn't like it.
Yeah.
Rubinstein judged a little bit. He started his own competition in Israel.
Yeah.
Martha Argerich has got some connection, you know, with him more or less. But you often hear them saying, no, competition. The truth is, it's one of the ways to get your face and your name and your hands and your sound way up there in the clouds, you know, so people can really know you're there. But I was thinking about Arthur Rubinstein talks in his autobiography. He went to pre-Soviet Russia to compete in the Anton Rubinstein.
Yeah.
So because he was a Rubinstein, you know, people made some about that in the media. But you know who he was competing against?
Oh, yeah.
Say that
Edwin Fischer and Hahn and...
now I'm trying to think. Who's the guy that, the German who did the famous recording of the Chopin Etudes?
Oh, Bachhaus.
Wilhelm Bachhaus. Now, we don't know him so much over here. I mean, historically and, you know, just in the piano world, people know about him. But he never really performed. I don't know if he ever performed in the States, but if so, like Kempf, he was mostly European-based.
Yeah, sure.
And there's some incredible performances by him, one of which is way back in the old Pathé record days. And this is amazing. I mean, he recorded all of the 24 etudes of Chopin. And they remain one of the quintessential, like, knock your socks off recordings.
Yes, it is.
Well, he's the one that won first prize.
Yes.
Rubinstein took second.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about it. And there have been some that, interestingly, I don't remember what the competition was, but I'm sorry, I've been out of it a little bit, been taking some medication too. Who's the Italian pianist who was known for such great perfection?
Pellini.
Pellini. Rubinstein was on the jury.
Yes, the Chopin.
Was it Chopin?
It was the Chopin competition.
That Pellini, I think he won it.
He did. He was only
But
18.
Rubinstein actually said to the judges, "Gentlemen, we should resign and let this guy have the prize, and he can judge from now on."
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's an interesting history with it. It's some careers have been built,
Oh yeah.
but it's not a guarantee. Look, Pogorelich didn't win the Chopin,
No.
but Martha Argerich walked out and off the jury because she thought he should have made the
At
finals.
least made the finals.
Probably done it. But then he had a huge career, amazing.
Mhm.
Kind of a painful life in some ways. Yeah, there's been some people that have made it, but then I'm thinking also like Barry Douglas, for example.
Barry Douglas.
What's the guy who did the whole Russian books?
Peskanov.
Peskanov.
Alexander Peskanov.
But do you remember these names really? Peskanov and Barry Douglas? I mean, they had their heyday for a while.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem to last.
No, it did.
That we know about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what Barry Douglas, he was Irish.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he was doing over there or what he did
Yeah.
in Europe or something. But the unfortunate thing is,
Well, they say if you're a winner in one of these competitions, life actually gets harder after that.
yeah,
You know, it does. They said it was
it's the
much more
reality
difficult than.
of our art
Yeah.
form. If you do a fabulous job at any one time,
Yeah.
that becomes the new standard that you have to meet from then on,
Yeah.
even for yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's a hard profession because
Absolutely.
you know, it's up and down. I mean, sometimes the piano's not great. Sometimes you're just not in the right place.
Mhm.
Sometimes the audience, whatever. And sometimes it doesn't really work, you know. But then sometimes it does. And unfortunately, in a way, it's those times when it does, when you really kick butt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then everybody expects you to kick a little harder the next time.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So let's talk about these
Let's
people.
talk about, okay.
Actually, let's talk about the one. You didn't want to talk so much, but I noticed her in the news. People have been talking about her.
Yeah.
What was her name?
Magdalene
Ho.
Ho. She's from Malaysia.
Yeah.
The young thing.
I listened to her performance.
Yeah.
It was a Bach thing, wasn't it?
It was Bach, and I believe she also did the Franck Prelude,
Yes.
Chorale and Fugue.
Which is kind of unusual repertoire.
Yeah.
But I heard the Bach,
beautiful, though. Beautiful.
and I thought it was sparkly. It was interesting.
Yeah.
The voicing was really wonderful.
Oh yeah.
There's just something very. I wouldn't go so far as enchanting. I'd say you and Sean Lennox got an enchanting.
Yeah.
But she was very magnetic.
Oh yeah.
And the way she played, something about her character and everything, it was infused with honesty and a straightforwardness and character.
Yeah.
But why didn't she make? Does anybody ever say why she got that?
They never talked about it. But Ben Laudy from Tone Bass Piano did mention about how he was disappointed she didn't make it to the next round. I'll tell you, it could be a variety of reasons why she didn't make the next round. It could be a variety. You'd have to talk to the judges to find out what exactly they were looking for at this point. I mean, the interesting thing is the usual choices for a competition of this level. You usually see the usual Mephisto Waltz or the Rhapsody Espagnole by Liszt, or Petrushka, that's a very popular one by Stravinsky, or the Rachmaninoff Sonata No. 2. But you did not get that in this competition.
There's a lot of different
It was
repertoire.
there was only one or two Rachmaninoff sonatas
Wow.
this year. One or two.
Did
and
anybody
was only-
make it? Who
Did anyone?
played it?
I think one did. One did. Let's see. There was another guy that did. Oh gosh, help me out.
I haven't seen it. Can't help it.
Yeah. Well, okay. Maybe it'll come to me later. But we did get a couple of Stravinsky Agosti transcription of the Firebird. We had 2 Firebirds this time around.
I always thought it was interesting that some pianists have been going back in the repertoire, way back past Bach, J.S. Bach.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I saw that somebody played C.P.E. Bach, did they?
They might have.
I thought it was interesting that there was French.
They did.
Yeah, I thought I read that. And then I think this is also because when you and John Lamb did his recital in
Wigmore Hall?
In Wigmore, he started out with, was it John Bull or the other
Dowland.
John Dowland?
John Dowland.
Who he said to the British people is one of the best composers ever
produced in England.
And then he played some French stuff.
He played the 3-part inventions, the Sinfonias.
I thought he played some French music, but
anyway,
that repertoire, it's interesting if you go back and listen to some of these old guys.
Yeah.
Some of them were playing some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't hear much of it when I was growing up, but it was interesting when I look back at some of the old recordings, like, what's the guy's name, Marston, puts out. There were people playing some of that repertoire, and it's definitely coming back.
Yeah.
So they were playing, was it Dandrieux and was it Rameau that they played?
I think so.
I find that interesting. That I'm just immediately thinking of Lauren Hollander's Child Prodigy, and I have his first album that he released.
Wow.
I think it's all Chopin.
Wow.
And I think, there's a lot of Chopin on it.
Uh-huh.
Every single piece on there, there's like 13 pieces on the album. You know every single one of them. They're like top drawer, famous repertoire.
Absolutely.
And I thought, as I read, I don't really like to watch the competitions and stuff. It makes me nervous, in a way, I don't want to feel like that when I hear music making. But what was I saying? What was I just saying?
You were talking about Hollander.
Hollander, yeah. It kind of was for some time when we went to school, right?
Yeah.
There's a certain bucket list of repertoire you had to know, you had to play.
Yeah.
That's the way you proved yourself.
Absolutely.
I played a lot of that stuff, know. And then fortunately I'm older now and, I play more or less what I want to play. Mm-hmm. And so, sometimes I'll do some more traditional stuff in the first half. But in the second half, I want to show people other things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's so much wonderful music.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of it's relatively forgotten because it is okay to kind of shove it to the side.
Yeah.
But then there's some other stuff which is so remarkable. But anyway, keep talking.
Okay. Well, anyways, all right. So you can tell I'm excited about this. Day one. The drama already starts on day one. So at the before the competition starts, everybody's invited to a picnic or a banquet, a gathering. And a silver cup is brought out that's got slips of papers with numbers on them.
Oh, yeah.
And this would determine the order of which the pianist would play. Well, the young pianist, the 18-year-old from Japan, I don't recall his name, what does he do? He stands up and volunteers to go number one.
Good for him.
18-year-old kid.
Buddy.
Yeah, I was all excited. Yeah, there he is. It's sort of like I don't know if you've never seen the movie Hunger Games. Katniss Everdeen volunteers for her younger sister to play in the Lethal Game. So, but it kind of reminded me of that a little.
So
bit.
I take it he didn't advance.
No, he didn't.
It's unfortunate because.
But he was very.
Everybody goes, oh no! Like the first 6.
I know
they're not going to get chosen.
Yeah, but he's 18 though. He very well could.
Good for him.
But actually,
in and of itself,
it's a marketing strategy.
Absolutely,
a marketing strategy.
This kid volunteered to start at the Van Cliburn Competition.
Yeah, and he got to premiere the actual commissioned piece this year.
He played it first.
Yes, he got to play it first. It's a work called Rock Time, R-A-C-H, Rock Time by Gabriela Montero. If you all don't know who she is.
I've heard a symphonic work. Dudamel likes her stuff. He performed with the LA Philharmonic.
Did she?
Yeah.
Wow. Take a look at. I mean, if you've never heard of Gabrielle Montero, please go look her up.
And I understand it's kind of a Rachmaninoff and jazzy kind of stuff, or improvisatory, isn't it? There's some improvisation.
Yeah, she does some. It's very improvisational. I mean, at least the structure of the work. It's very tonal. It's very. It's consumable by pianists and audiences alike. So it's an enjoyable piece. I would not call the work something. If you're looking for something that's a little bit more in depth, you're not going to really find it in this work. It's more of a showpiece.
What was the work that Samuel Barber wrote one time for the competition?
For the competition, it was the ballade.
Yeah, the ballad. Yeah, that's a great piece.
Yes, wonderful piece. Very difficult for him. He mentioned how difficult it was to write that work.
Yeah.
He said he wasn't quite sure how to end the piece, but he finally got to it, which was sort of a habit of his in his later years. If you recall the John Browning incident.
I read about that in the news
Did you
recently.
read?
You know, Horowitz premiered the sonata
Yeah.
in Havana before he presented it in New York.
Yeah.
But then Barber wanted him to premiere the piano concerto.
Yeah.
And Horowitz turned it down.
Exactly.
And John Browning was the one that did, and he became the guy associated with that concerto.
Yes. But, however, it was 3 or 4 days before the premiere, and the third movement was not even put down on paper yet. It wasn't even put down. Everybody in the symphony and the conductor and the pianist are all sweating. When are you going to get it finished? When are you going to get it finished? According to John Browning, he had to spend a lot of hours trying to get the thing learned and memorized. You're talking about 3 or 4 days, the week of, folks. The week of.
That says something about the guy.
Yes.
Browning never achieved the world star celebrity like Van Cliburn or like Willie Capel would have had.
Yeah.
But, or...
Ashkenazi.
Well, I'm thinking of Americans.
Earl Wild?
Yeah, well, Sir Wild's up there, and Leon Fleischer.
Leon Fleischer.
But Browning deserves to be right.
Oh, he definitely has. Absolutely.
But he had a wonderful, rich tone.
Yes.
He had a big sound when he needed to.
Oh, yeah, he sure could.
I would sometimes wonder if it's the instrument that they would choose.
It's
because
partially
his Steinways that he played had the capacity for some grand sounds. So I would say a wide dynamic possibility.
Yeah, but he also fashioned the music to the way he wanted it dynamically. If you notice, if you've ever listened to his recordings of the Liszt Sonata or the Mephisto Waltz or the Rachmaninoff Sonata No. 2, which he recorded the 1913 version.
Whoa.
Okay, the 1913 version.
That's the one that Rachmaninoff said, that's too many notes and it's way too long. Only the Chopin sonatas are like 20, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
This thing goes on for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's too long.
But he would reinforce the bass. If you notice in the recordings, I mean, in some of his recordings, when he wanted more sound, a much more orchestral sound, without,
So that's how he did.
Without without making it sound too banging. But he reinforced the bass. Maybe bring the left hand down an octave.
I wonder if that's an old trick. Like I associate that also sometimes with Earl Wild. He would monkey with things. If you look at the Liszt editions he has of stuff, he has some really interesting alternative possibilities in the second ballad. After I had learned it and performed it many times, I came across his edition, and I subsequently incorporated some stuff, and it inspired me to add a couple things of my own in it, because I thought, well, hell, Wild's doing it, and it's okay, then I can do it. Not that I'm Wild, but it's just like he opened the door for that.
Yeah.
But I think that sounds like an old pianist kind of thing, where they would still that 19th century thing where they would monkey with the piece a little bit if they thought there was something to do.
Yeah, we're dealing with different instruments.
I didn't know that Browning did that, but that may describe how he gets sometimes the... I often think it's like if you were able to listen to music with really good speakers in the Grand Canyon.
Oh, yeah.
And then it might have been the way that they recorded it. I don't know. Mercury Records did some amazing things with placement and the way that they could create these sounds, which are really remarkable. But anyway, we're just going off on tangents.
Here we are.
So,
how did you get the John Browning? So,
I don't know. But the thing I was wondering about, so I know that earlier on, and I think from the beginning, or at least at some point early on, because of Van Cliburn's own career, you know, he got pigeonholed. I mean, it was the very first Tchaikovsky competition,
1958,
and an American won it. You know, that was a big kick in the teeth to the Soviets. And we were talking about this before it was making the tea. Sviatoslav Richter is the only time he was ever on a jury. He sat on the jury, and once he heard Van Cliburn, he told everybody else gets zeros, and we give this boy 100. Yes. In his mind, there ain't nobody else up there playing that can do this. So, I mean, he came back to New York, and they gave him a ticker tape parade in New York City. The only people that got stuff like that usually were astronauts. You know, but it showed the politics at the time. That was a huge coup for the United States. But then the problem that happened with him, he had a career very actively for 10 to 12 years. He was the highest paid pianist in the world, even more than Arthur Rubinstein, for example. Now, Horowitz didn't play that much, but he got paid well when he did. But still, Van Cliburn was raking it in.
He was.
But the problem is they said, well, the audience only wants to hear certain things.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe a half dozen piano concertos, but usually Tchaikovsky or Rock 3. But then, you know, he did record some stuff. He did the Grieg, but the Grieg was popular back in the days. And there's certain solo repertoire. Certain Beethoven sonatas, things like that. But he said that ultimately he got kind of burned out because he wanted to play other things. And the managers and the people said, no, that's not what they want to hear. You play that's going to fall on deaf ears. And
they wanted to capitalize on this boy's fame.
Totally. And because of that, when he set up well, he didn't set it up, but people wanted to celebrate him and set up the competition in Fort Worth. He introduced a chamber music component. That was there for a long time to play one of the big piano quintets. But I understand they don't do that now. They've turned it into a Mozart concerto.
Yes, it's now a Mozart concerto.
And I was wondering, why would they do that? Because is it possibly that the pianist playing with the string players? I mean, chamber music takes a real chemistry. And it's possible maybe he didn't really make it, or how open was the quartet to a particular interpretation of tempos or things? I mean, it's possible that in the chamber music, well, I know, and the other thing I'm going to say is, in chamber music, it's all about the ensemble. It's not about the soloist. And it's interesting to me that they stopped doing that, because that was a real strong wish on the part of Van Cliburn that if you want to be a real concert pianist, because I mean Rubinstein was like that. And now when he was young, and you know people were always doing concerts at rich people's houses, he played buttloads of chamber music. And he talks about it in his book.
He does.
And the people that he played with, the people that he knew. Some people try. I mean, not Pablo Picasso. Casals, or it would be at somebody's house and they didn't know it, but they were both there, and they ended up playing cello piano pieces all night long, you know. And the people that got to know it, but for the longest time, he did do some stuff here and there, but it was in his later years when he paired up with Henrik Schering, one of my favorite violinists, and they did the Brahms sonatas, all of it, and then he had apparently much older. Had gone to a concert. He was, you know, at night to himself. I think it was, I don't know if it was in New York or Ann Arbor or something like that. But they were young at the time. The Guarneri Quartet were playing, and he wanted to say, I want to go hear these kids play. And this is some story, right? Because after they finished, you know, and the Guarneri Quartet had a huge career. But who should show up in the green room after the concert? Now, they were like young guys. They were there. Late 20s, early 30s, you know. and in comes Arthur Rubinstein. I mean, the Arthur Rubinstein, like in his early 70s, but still with a sack of balls on, like a 30-year-old guy, you know, amazing player in his 70s. And he said, you guys are interested in playing some chamber music sometime? These guys are like, are you fucking kidding? And I've got it. They recorded a bunch of different things, but there's the two Mozart piano quartets he does with them. I don't know, I had to drop out for those, but and there's some quintet stuff. There's the Brahms
quintet.
There's also some other stuff. He did trios with Fournier and who was the violinist? Was it Sharon or not? There's trios.
The trios.
Where I've got some stuff he plays, you know, a bunch of Schumann trios. I think Brahms, right?
Yeah.
I remember Fournier is on there a lot, and Manuel Feuermann also played with. There's the famous, what do they call them, the Millionaire Trio, or what was it called?
Oh, the Millionaire,
with the Heifetz and Gorski.
Yeah.
So he did play stuff through his career, but I thought that was really cool that as an old guy, and he said because, particularly it was the sound and the way they played together.
Yeah.
It reminded me of some other ensemble when he was a young man in Europe. And he said, I want to play with these guys. I want to do this again. And I thought, that's great. Well, anyway, I'm always interrupting poor Owen.
That's okay.
But they got rid of the chamber thing. It's been a while, right?
It's been about 2 or 3
competitions.
Maybe 2 competitions, I'm thinking.
And now they're doing Mozart.
Now they're doing Mozart concerto.
Which is an interesting consideration.
Yeah, it sure is.
I mean,
Mozart
in our day and age, because we have so much competition with performance practice people, Belson, for example, and other folks, the concept of a Mozart sound has changed. I mean, there's some fabulous performances. Just before he left Austria, when the Nazis were rolling in shortly thereafter, Bruno Walter did an amazing performance of the Jupiter Symphony with the Vienna Philharmonic.
Yeah, I know that one.
Talk about crack-ass tempi.
Yeah.
Wow. This is available on YouTube. You can watch the actual performance. I don't know if it's complete, but holy God, the last movement just rips noise. And it's the Vienna Philharmonic at that time in history. With very mature, not ancient, but he's probably in his 60s maybe by then, Bruno Walter. Yeah. But listen to, I have LP collection. It's in multiple records, and it's stuff on CD of Walter conducting Mozart, for example.
Yeah.
Or another one, famous one was the German composer who had a big career in London. He conducted a lot. He had the owl-like glasses. I'll put his name up in his face. Okay. I'm sorry, I can't think of his name right now.
The German composer?
No, German conductor.
Conductor.
Well, a tall guy. He was one of the famous ones, but he left because he's Jewish as well. Oh, Cliburn.
Yeah.
His son, Werner.
Werner,
What's his name? Colonel.
Yeah, Colonel Klink from Logan's Heroes.
He was the son of Werner.
Yeah.
Well, it's just you listen to the Mozart or Karl Böhm's Mozart. Now, in their time, they were considered preeminent Mozart conductors. But within the whole historic performance stuff came in.
Yeah.
And it's even like post-historic performance, hot roddy stuff, you know. It's become more, all of it has been thought about, amalgamated in certain kind of ways.
Yeah.
I don't think even us, I mean.
Yeah.
Well, I know, I study with Malcolm Bilson and things like that. I pay a lot more attention to the articulation and knowing how the forte piano sounds. I don't ever try to make the modern piano sound like a harpsichord.
Exactly.
No. But at the same time, I have an appreciation for what the envelope of possibility would be, more or less. So, I mean, the dynamic range and the articulation in the Mozart as I would play it now is not Liszt's world at all.
Right.
I think we have to become more sensitized to what one thinks of as historically correct style. You think so? As opposed to the generation before, or certainly a couple generations before.
I mean, today we're dealing with a completely different instrument. I mean, it's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same kind of instrument you were dealt with from the '60s or '70s.
The way
it's
they
not
play
the same.
And
the
the way they're
different.
voiced,
Yeah,
and sound as well. But then was
was
that influenced because of all of this other stuff coming at us? You know, the historic performance and hearing the old instruments and knowing that. I've seen some wonderful videos on YouTube of people playing a play-out from Chopin's Tone.
Yeah.
Or an Erard. And it's very interesting.
Yeah.
And in some ways, when you play the music on the instrument that was available at the time for which it was written, it's easier. It's like everything works easier. One time I played I was playing the Brahms First Sonata for a period of time, and I had the chance to play it on a straight string piano. And the problems I had in the first and even the second movement is, you know, with us, you have to learn how to pull things out and voice something more than something else. To really have to work to balance the voices and things. And the Brahms First Sonata is a symphony written for the piano. So, and Howard helped me realize that. He said, you know, this is maybe an oboe here, this is a clarinet, these are strings. How are you going to bring that off? And that's the way he suggested I do it. The cool thing is when I played it on the straight string piano, especially like the cello stuff or the bassoon stuff, because the strings don't cross, you don't have that kind of ambient mixture, that watercolor kind of possibility. It's way easier to play because I wasn't being lazy, but it spoke so easily by itself. So I hadn't thought about that. That you know that even though I know that there's certain piano manufacturers that are still fussing with other possibilities, but that even the voicing the instruments and the way I do think the really best new instruments are like the old ones at the beginning of the 20th century. You know, Model A Steinways or the early Mason Hamlets. Those things played like just so easy. I mean, but at some point there was this concept that I don't know, the piano had to thunder and then it needed to explode more or something. And maybe it's because of the size of the halls and the orchestras got bigger and everything. Although Erard was perfectly fine with Liszt in the days that he was alive, but they had decent sized halls, but there was a period of time, and I know in the Orient, there was this idea that the down action of the keys had to be resistant because it would build your strings and stuff. Instead, you had the green carpal tunnel bullshit. That's not. But it seems like we moved past that. Because I played some more modern instruments, like the Steingraber, the things he's building in Germany, and Shigeru Kawai. Probably one of the most heavenly things I've ever played. Twice I played it. What it was really great if you're a pianist and you live for it is the thing is truly an extension of your own heart and your voice. And most of the time, it's a bit of a battle between us and the instrument to see how much she's really going to yield to what we want to do, right? So here I am talking again about stuff, but I don't see the boy enough, and so we don't get to talk shop. So we were talking about the stages of the competition. So the last, it's concerto time for me now, right?
Yes, it is concerto time.
Before that, is there 4 rounds or 3?
Okay, the preliminary rounds, you are given a 40-minute recital. The quarterfinals is the 50. I'm thinking it's 50. And then the semifinals is the Mozart concerto. But the final, you get a recital and a concerto.
Wow, full
piano. So because
you're talking about potentially 2 hours.
Yeah, you're talking. Yeah, they give you
a New York style recital.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, so you actually get full recital, and a concerto. Now,
The
interestingly,
sheer exhaustion of making it through all of those things.
yeah.
Also tests your mettle as a concert artist.
Oh yeah.
Can you really pull this stuff off so you're playing every 3 days or something like
Yeah,
that?
no kidding. Yeah, and some of them played twice a day.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyways, yeah. So after the first recital went off, let's see. He actually ended his recital.
Who's
with,
he?
I can't remember his name.
Was it a Japanese boy?
It was the 18-year-old
Oh.
Japanese kid.
Uh-huh.
He actually closed his preliminary recital with the Norma Fantasy.
Whoa!
Yeah, I know.
Whoa!
You're kidding.
That's one of the early successful
Yeah.
pieces that Franz
On the
Liszt
list.
played.
Yeah. So, but he was not the only one. There were. You got to hear that work 2 or 3 times in the whole
Well,
thing.
this is something that I remember
It's
reading
kind of
about
strange.
the last time and this time.
Yeah.
The repertoire that they're choosing, you couldn't get away with impure
Yeah.
repertoire in the past.
Exactly.
I mean, you
couldn't
didn't
do
play
that.
arrangements or
You could fantasies
stuff like
or
that.
anything like
You
that.
could.
No.
If you're going to play Liszt, you can play the sonata, maybe the ballad, although I never heard
Yeah.
that in a competition.
Yeah.
Or of course the Rhapsodies.
Yeah.
Or you said the Rhapsody, the Spanish thing.
Yeah. Rhapsody Espanol.
But no, the fantasies.
No,
you
no,
don't
you
want
could. I mean,
fantasies.
the
They're
closest.
extraordinary pieces.
Yeah, but the
they
closest
take
you
it
could get was
seriously.
probably the Paganini Etudes. That's
Yeah.
as close a
The
transcript as you
Paganini
could get.
of Liszt or Brahms.
Yeah,
That's about as far as you can
as
go.
close as you could get
And
to
it's
it.
impressive if you play them anyway.
Yeah,
But I think that's interesting because,
yeah,
see, I'm interested now in more of that non-traditional repertoire, like fantasies or arrangements.
yeah.
I had been until I heard
Oh,
myself.
yeah.
Was looking at more of the Godofsky stuff.
Yeah,
Whoa!
Yeah.
But I have played some of the Godofsky.
yeah.
What he calls the Renaissance pieces.
Yeah. That's the
Um,
one.
I can't think of the composer. I won't waste your time with it now.
Okay.
But I played a few different things, and on one of those Menorcore, the one I played at Christmas, I
Yeah.
played the Angelus of Corelli.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
Godofsky.
Yeah.
Played the arrangement of that. But that's very interesting to me.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I mean, we also got the Don Juan Fantasy like 3 times in this one. The Don Juan. Can you believe it?
You know, when I was in
I
the
mean,
doc-
Mozart is about as pure as it gets in this competition, but you get the Don Juan.
when I was in the doctoral program,
Amazing.
and I remember very
So-
specifically being impressed, the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor
Yeah.
had a repertoire list.
Oh,
It was famous.
Yeah.
You needed to know everything on that list
Uh-huh.
just to get the doctorate from
Yeah.
there. Now, not performed all of it necessarily, because it was a huge list of stuff.
Imagine.
So I'm talking solo stuff. But basically, if you're going to call yourself, that kind of a profession, an Arthur Rubinstein, but from a doctoral academic point of view, you needed to know all this repertoire.
Yep.
There were no fantasies or
No, nothing like that.
none of that in there. And now, they're doing this in the Van Clarence.
This bankrupt.
It also speaks to the taste, I think, of
Yeah.
what the audiences maybe are receptive to.
Yeah.
There's probably this kind of conservatory and
Yeah.
probably somewhat dramatically influenced attitude about repertoire.
Yeah.
That that's not real repertoire.
Yeah.
That is trash. That's entertainment.
Yeah.
That is not art. But go ahead. So the quarter. No, first the preliminary quarter.
and then there was the quarterfinals, semifinals.
Those are all solo side or the semifinals of Mozart.
The semifinals was the Mozart.
Okay, who played the best Mozart?
Who played the most?
In your opinion? I did
Boy,
not
that's a tough
see,
one.
but heard. Actually, it was via the radio. I think they did a story about the Van Clarence thing, and there was some playing from people that were competing. One thing I would say was it was clearly 2 different pianists that they were playing snatches from. It was a beautiful sound.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of beautiful playing?
Oh, there was a lot of beautiful playing. I mean, that's why I said, before the show started, I told them, if you make this year, the playing level is so high. I I told Mark here that I'm going to step out on a limb and say, if you made it to this competition, you've already won. I mean, the competition is stiff. It's never been. I mean, it's just the level of playing, the variety of tone. These kids are not stupid. I mean, I think they've learned from the past already.
And what you don't hear is cookie cutter.
No, you don't.
They're very
individualistic.
Artists.
Exactly.
That's nice. Because I mean, the reason I don't like the competition is, let's say, like, I don't know. Let's say you brought up Kempf, Rubinstein, Lotto Perlmutter, maybe. I said Kempf. Bachhaus, for example, or Brendel, or what's the lady's name? Great piano. Argerich, Claudio Rao. If you bring all those people out on stage, how are you going to say who's the best? It's like when Van Cliburn hosted that celebration of the pianists, and they come out one after the other. I remember Tchaikovsky. I love Tchaikovsky.
Yeah,
he was an amazing pianist. Little guy, and he comes out and does that funny little bow that he does. But he played wasn't it Sanctuary Kaleidoscope in that?
Yeah,
video?
He did. Yeah, he did.
And the extraordinary thing is that the same one that Lazar Berman even played in as well? Remember him?
Yeah, I do remember him.
I don't know if it's the same one. There's a whole host of pianists that would come out and play on the stage. Yeah. I assume this was some kind of special event that they held in Fort Worth, because Van Cliburn hosted it. It's an old video. It's in color, and you can watch it on YouTube. Just look up Van Cliburn hosting Celebration of Pianists or something like that. There's a whole bunch of them. And it is a celebration of piano playing.
It should be. Yeah.
How can you compare them? They're all the premier example of an exquisite main dish or an amazing fruit that has certain color, texture, and taste. No, you can't compare them. Most of my favorite, Ignaz Friedman. Now, I do have some that just blow me away. Yeah. I've said it many times, but when I really started to hear Friedman's playing, and at my age and level now and everything, I think, holy God, that guy was. And it's interesting, he was the Chopin piano.
Oh yeah,
that
was
time.
Fun. Yeah.
And then Rubinstein became a Chopin piano player. Different universes, but both of them are extraordinary. Yeah. But how can you say one's better than the other? Well, you can't say. I mean, the word competition, I think, is sort of misleading. Okay, it's not really a competition. What you're doing is you have a parade of pianists performing. I get that. One at the other. But at the end, somebody gets the big package and somebody gets a lesser one, and then there's the lesser one. Yeah, there is. How do they determine that? Well, and I heard somebody saying that the last competition, Yun Chun Lin set the bar so high that they think that this one, no offense, but they just this guy is somebody in the world. I forget whether it's British or New York or something. Maybe San Francisco. I don't know, but some big music critic kind of guy. But I think one that's well informed and really knows the field. He said, man, of course they're fabulous, and of course it's all good, but now he did say this. None of them are Yun Chun Lin. Now, there's a bar there, and it's unfortunate, but Yun Chun Lin at what he's achieved so far in his very young life is shooting someday for that rare space for somebody like Ignaz Friedman. I mean, that's super special, remarkable pianism and musicianship. Wow. But anyway, go ahead and talk about these folks, because I see there's 6 of them left. Yeah, there's 6 of them left. 3 of them are Americans. Yeah, that's amazing. 3 of them. 2 are Russian, and 1's from Korea. Or China? China. I forgot. Yeah, Koreans didn't make it this time. I'm sorry? No Koreans made it this time. No Koreans made it this time. No, we had some semi-finalists. Wasn't there 2 of them last time? Yun Chun Lin won another guy, also Korean? Or he's Oriental-ish, right? Yeah, there's at least Asian. Okay, so, but... What about that Canadian Chinese pianist? He's also kind of young. Didn't he win in the Van Cliburn? Canadian Chinese... I can't remember the name. You know what
I know who you're talking about.
He's
but
from Canada.
Yeah,
And I think he's Chinese heritage.
yeah.
He's got quite a career. But go ahead.
But anyways, yeah.
I just get so excited.
A little
talking
bit of a
business with
detail
you.
though. There's one pianist among the Americans. One did catch my attention, and mark my words, he's going to have quite a career. If he win or not win in this competition, he is going to have a career. Angel Stanislav Wang.
Well, what a name.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's a guy with an
it's
angel?
a guy, Angel Stanislav Wang. His father is Chinese, mother is Russian.
Uh-huh. Best of both contemporary worlds.
Yeah,
In
and
terms
so-
of the emphasis on the
So
art.
the story with this guy was when he was a child, he used to sing, dance, art, theater, poke around at the piano, and he started taking lessons at the age of 5 or 6 years old from his mother.
Mhm.
And apparently as he got older, I'm thinking maybe pre-teens, 11 or 12 or something like that, he decided he wants to study at the same school his mother did.
In Russia.
In Russia.
Hmm.
So mother flies her son back to Russia, and he stays with his grandparents for a number of years, and he gets accepted into the Gnesin School of Music.
Wow.
Now, mind you, you've never heard of this school. This is the school Evgeny Kasin graduated
Yeah.
from.
I've heard
Okay,
this
he
before.
studied there. It's for the gifted, children who are gifted, and he got to go. But now he's stateside, and I'm not sure. Maybe I'm getting my information wrong, but he spends a lot of time in Cleveland now.
Really? Cleveland
So-
Institute historically has had some great artists up
Yeah.
there.
So, anyways, he
And the symphony is one of the great ones in the world.
semifinalist. As a semifinalist, he was one of the few that played the Don Juan Fantasy. The
Oh.
semifinals, and it was unique. This kid, he didn't, in the tradition of the Romanticists, he was not afraid to leave out notes or change notes here and there, and it's mostly because he was going after a certain line or a certain tone. It was extremely unique. He made the tenor part sound like a tenor. He made the baritone parts
got an
sound like
ear.
a baritone. It's unique.
Good for him.
The finale of the Don Juan Fantasy, the Champagne aria at the end.
Yeah.
He didn't treat it just like a showpiece or something like that.
Mm.
It was intelligently put together. He did not ignore the fact that it was arranged by Liszt, but he didn't forget that it was Mozart.
Yeah.
It's a Mozart opera. He didn't forget that. So that was the unique part. If you were looking for somebody to release the thunder and lightning, you may not get it from that performance. But nevertheless, it was one of the most unique experiences I ever saw, watching him play that piece.
By the way you described it, I have a feeling he really knows the opera.
Yes, he really does.
That's when you do.
Yeah.
when I was in school and stuff, I had some colleagues.
Yeah,
They tried their hands at some Schubert Liszt transcriptions.
yeah,
I knew those people never played with singers. I know they didn't
yeah.
because they were always in the room,
Yeah,
banging away on the piano.
Yeah,
I did a lot of accompanying.
yeah,
Really worked with him. My passion has always been for the song repertoire, not as much for opera per se, but when it comes to just the poetry and the immediacy of the music, especially such
the
like
art of the
great-
leader.
that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
And French chanson,
Yeah,
wonderful stuff. And then the Ruskies set some really interesting music, and Ravel wrote some remarkable pieces with the voice. But I knew that stuff. And you could tell sometimes when they played, especially some of the Schubert stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, poor Schubert got lost in
Yeah.
the bathwater a long way back.
yeah,
You knew that they didn't really know the song. And then if you really know the song, you really work with it, you know the words.
yes.
And you know the moments, especially if it's a strophic piece. And I'm absolutely certain Liszt did.
Oh yeah.
Because when he wrote the Année de Pèlerinage, there's many times when the facing page
Mhm.
is full of poetry or
yeah.
an excerpt from somebody's novel or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
or a reminiscence by somebody or something like that, or a
Yeah.
philosophical statement,
Yeah.
which was an inspiration for the piece. Even isn't the Wilhelm Tell, the very first piece, isn't there something facing it? It's not the very first piece in the
Carolage?
yeah.
William Tell?
Chapelle
of the William Tell. Yeah.
Isn't there something written before that one?
I think so.
So, well, I mean, of course, in strophic song, the important thing is that you really have to emphasize the important words in the line.
Yeah.
Because the problem with strophic writing, one of the best examples, for example, a hymn.
Yeah.
It can get very sing-songy, and people sing the same kind of way, and they put themselves to sleep by the third verse.
Yeah.
So we got 5 or 6 verses. I'm a church organist, and I try to keep it moving.
Different. Yeah.
I try to play it differently, based upon what they're singing, because typically they'll start out with the first verse, maybe the second verse is pretty strong, and it gets weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker.
Yeah.
Because I think they're literally, their brains are going to sleep. You know, and it doesn't change.
Yeah.
When you look at the way that Liszt transcribed those songs,
Yeah.
it's not just that, oh, now I can show you how to do this or this or that.
Yeah.
Maybe it is, but I try to play it as though this is different because that line of the text is different. And that's what's trying to come out here, you know?
Yeah, incidentally, if you look for certain editions of the Schubert Liszt songs, look for the ones that's got the words to it.
Yeah.
Because that was the way he meant it to be published. There are some editions that don't have those.
I've got the old Peters editions.
Do you?
And the words are often in there.
Okay, well, they've been also been reproduced on the Dover editions.
Oh,
so
cool.
they have the Dover edition has the words.
Oh, cool! I didn't know
so
that.
That's good. Yeah. So
anyways, but with the guy playing the fantasy the way you said. So did you hear that? For example, you said there are a lot of people playing fantasies.
Yeah, but mostly him.
Yeah.
The other ones you don't.
So does it just seem like it's just flashy entertainment, but there's nothing really there? Is that what you heard in those performances?
Not in the other performances, but this guy, this Angel Wang. Watch out if you've heard the Don Juan Fantasy. Yeah, go ahead and listen to other pianists play it, but then listen to this guy. I mean, it's not.
That was one of the early famous recordings of Horowitz, wasn't it? He played that way back.
He played it in his graduation recital.
That's it, and then he recorded it. When he did the Alfred Coates recording of the Rachmaninoff Third, at the same time he recorded the
Don Juan Fantasy.
About the same time, I have
You have it?
CD.
You have it?
I can dig it out for you.
Oh wow! I like to hear that.
It was one of his youthful repertoire pieces.
Okay.
Certain things he never came back to some stuff.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. You have it.
I'm not so sure. I think the first time he ever recorded was acoustic, because there's even some player piano.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that he did early on.
Yeah. But anyways, moving on. The highlight of the preliminary round one was for me the Maestro Wu from China. He started his recital with the Janacek Sonata. Oh my goodness! What a way to open a recital.
About that one time?
We did. We did talk about the Janacek Sonata. I brought in the Henley edition, which was actually edited by Stephen Hoff. It's his figures and everything.
Cool.
It's a good edition. But anyways, it was that's a difficult work to work out, especially live performance, and it was impeccable. This guy, this Maestro Wu, he starts with the Janacek Sonata. Well, Maestro? Not Maestro. I'm calling him Maestro, but I just can't remember his first name. His name's Wu. Okay, but he started off with the Janacek and then went on to the Ravel's Gaspard de la Nuit.
Whoa!
Now, a word about that. his performance of the Gaspard, I would probably put it at the top, because usually at the beginning, all right, let's take the first movement, the Ondine. The tempo usually is ya da da dee da da.
And it's got this cheeky accompaniment.
It's got this,
with it.
yeah, this quasi tremolo, but it's not quite a tremolo. What does this guy do? Ya da da dee da da.
Wow.
More line,
Yeah.
folks. More line.
But that means his hands must be moving like
Yeah.
lightning.
So right here, yeah, over here but it was beautiful. It was beautifully done. Now, with a work at that level, yeah, there's going to be some. All right, I hate to say it, but there was some inaccuracies in it. I mean, he botched one or two passages in it. Okay, and it's expected. It's a difficult piece. The scarabo was something to behold. The urgency of that, that was so fast. But the urgency of how he did it, I mean, it was crystal clear. And the louder sections, which much more open this way. So you had to, I mean, he was using quite a bit of pedal at that point. But the other parts, he knew the difference between going this way, you know, smaller gestures, and then opening the sound out. I mean, it came out as big as the stage, the way his sound came out. It was wonderful. I was surprised that by the time he got to the semifinals, he was supposed to do another recital. And sadly, he goes up on stage, and
is this that guy?
This is that guy. He gets up on stage, he's sitting there, and he looks at his hands like this, and he stands up and walks off.
Yeah.
I was so sad to see that
Ravel.
do that. I don't know if he did or not. Did he?
Well, what I read in that article that nobody knew. I don't know if the news had come out yet about what happened.
Yeah.
But that actually the person that wrote the article said, well, good for him. He had enough sense that he may have hurt himself or that something wasn't working.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a very athletic aspect of being a musician, especially at this level.
Oh, yeah.
And if you got some little tweak or something that's not working right, I mean, in the professional leagues, like in football and basketball and soccer and stuff like that, this is why they take him off the field. Or the player has enough sense taking himself off the field. Because, okay, I'll miss this game, but I'm not going to screw this up bad enough that I'm going to miss half the season. Yeah. You know? We used to be baseball players. We're always going out for elbow injuries or something like that.
Rotator cuff.
That costs money.
Yeah.
And to both sides.
Yeah.
You know? And I think good for him, he had enough sense. But on the other hand, if he hurt himself doing something else, then he better go back and reevaluate.
Yeah.
Whatever it was and how he's doing it, if there's something that could be changed, or if he just simply pushed himself too far beyond his limits.
Yeah.
And the mechanism couldn't hold up. I mean, it's like you figure that you got a car, even if it's got a great engine, some great thrust in it. Yeah. There is a point where it's not a Maserati. Yeah. You know? And you push them, and you're going to be, you know, metal on metal in the motor pretty soon, burning up oil and stuff like that. And then the next thing you know, you blew your engine. And we can do the same thing. Oh, yeah. And there's been plenty of people I knew that. You know, when I was doing my doctorate, there were 6 of us at Boulder. There was one guy who was already a bit older. He had been a professor in California. They must have told him, or he thought, I'm going to get my doctorate. He did his really quick. 2 years and 3 summers, I think, and he was done. I got out in a total of 3 years. And the rest of my colleagues, 4 to 6, anyway. But the interesting thing is that of us 6, 3 of them, at some time for sure, and a 4th one for a little while, were hindered by injury. And they had to step away from the instrument for a while. Wow. That never happened to me. Yeah. And a lot of that is because of Ellsworth's influence those 6 years I was with him. There's a problem. One thing I'd say about the problem with the competition, it's a little bit like a horse race. Once in a while, you get these horses, they just fly around the ring, right?
Yeah.
But then there's other times when the jockey pushes them a little hard and stuff like that, and God forbid, then the horse injures itself.
Yeah.
Because then it's going to become gelatin,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
very quickly. Done with
Yeah.
it. And anyway,
Okay.
well, I was interested in that.
Yeah.
And people were like, "What's with this guy?"
Yeah,
He just,
I know.
he just went out, sat for an uncomfortable little period of time.
Yeah.
Looked at his hands. He got up and he walked off stage.
Yeah. And
No explanation.
No
Didn't say anything to anybody.
it's. I mean, it was. I felt bad. I mean, I really did. I mean, I looked at the guy and I watched him go up there, and you saw him. I mean, there's cameras all over the stage, and you see him go out like this, and then he gets up and walks off.
It was a wise choice.
Yeah.
It's not an embarrassing one in some ways, and a learning situation.
Yeah.
But better that than he may have played injured.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, people who are into sports and stuff knows what happened when that happens.
So, which brings us to the two other Americans. We have Carter Johnson. Carter Johnson. I was paying more attention to his manner at the piano. He has dual citizenship, Canada and USA. I've seen him perform before. He competed in the Arthur Rubinstein competition in Israel, and I got to watch him there.
Is he one of the older ones?
Yeah, he's one of the older ones. I think he's at least nearing 30.
30,
If he's not 30.
Somebody on
he's
that
nearing-
list, the last 6 was 30 years old.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I remember him from the Arthur Rubinstein competition, and significantly much better this time around, I think. Much better.
He didn't win anything at the Arthur Rubinstein.
No, he didn't. He didn't place. Mostly because I felt, I don't know, rhythmically and tempo-wise, some of his playing just seemed, in my taste, just a little stodgy at that point for some reason. But this time around, it was much better. He seemed very comfortable up there. Well, okay, I'll be honest. His hair looked better this time. He looked very good. I mean, he actually belonged. He belonged up there. It was really well done. As far as repertoire, I believe he played the. Let's see. He played the Shostakovich No. 1.
Concerto?
First sonata.
Oh, sonata.
The first sonata. Yeah, it was well done. He did that, and the Capriccio, Bach's Capriccio on the Departure of a Brother. Yeah, that was well done too. Morris Hinson says that very well could be the very first programmatic piece, in the piano repertoires, at least. But anyways,
there's a recording with Wanda Landowska after she moved to the United States in New Haven, and she talks.
She
in
does.
the recordings, yeah.
Wow,
Sometimes she reads some stuff, but she talks about that piece.
Wow. The other American is Evren Ozel, Mr.
Is it Turkish? It's Özel, I think. If it was correct pronunciation.
Yeah,
I saw that.
Yeah,
Well, I wondered if he was Turkish. What's
Ozil.
the name?
yeah, Minneapolis, Minnesota guy.
Good for him.
His interview was quite interesting. He started lessons at 3 years old.
His first name is what?
Evren
Yeah, he's definitely Turkish.
Ozel.
Yeah, that's right. It's Evren Özel.
Ozel.
Would be correct Turkish pronunciation, but this is an Americanization of his name,
So
which is probably how he says it.
yeah.
So
But anyways, yeah, he says his parents got him piano lessons because he was interested in the instrument even at 3 years old.
wow.
And he says every time he got himself in trouble, or in school or at home, parents had to to punish him somehow. They used to punish him by telling him that we'll take your piano lessons away. He says we'll take your piano, so you grounded from the piano. And of course, they couldn't do that, so they had to come up with something else.
Alicia Del Roca tells a story when she was a little girl, very little.
Yeah.
Her parents thought she should go outside and get some sunshine and play with the kids and stuff. And the piano was in this one room which had these French doors, and they would lock the French door shut. Mm-hmm. And she would bang her head on the wood of the French door, and even where she would bleed, until her parents would let her into the room so she could play.
That was Wanda?
No, Alicia.
Alicia.
Del
Del Rocha did that? Holy crap.
Some people are very driven.
How old was she?
Oh, she's a little kid, like 8 years old or something like that.
Boy, I've never heard of that story.
Maybe 6, I don't know, but her parents, of course, relented because she was trying to draw blood.
Oh, man. So, but anyways, let's see, what did he do? Yeah. So, for me, I'm always rooting for the Americans, okay? I mean, I'm hoping that they do really, really well. But for me, okay, this is just a gut feeling, okay? There's one particular pianist, his name is Vitaly Starkov.
Mm-hmm.
Starkov, I think is
he's a Russian.
Yeah, he's Russian. He has dual citizenship.
Oh.
Israel and Russia.
I remember seeing that, yeah.
So, I keep coming back to his performance. He did some Scriabin, and this guy, he's about color. I mean, just the things that he was able to evoke out of his instrument, and he does it with such authority and confidence. Once again, it has something to do with watching a performance and wanting to come back to see him do it again. And I just felt compelled by his playing. I mean, I was drawn to it. Watch that guy, Starkov.
I was just thinking about this just now.
Yeah.
I seem to remember this a while back when I was looking. I doubt they start out that way, the preliminaries.
Yeah.
But at some point, don't they have their choice of the instrument that they want to use?
Yes, they do.
When does that start? Because I was just thinking, when you're talking about the color of the instrument.
Yeah.
I played competition when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we would do these concerts. Teacher would set them to just be one pianist after another, and you come out and play.
Yeah.
It was difficult being the pianist towards the end of the first hour.
Yeah.
Because the piano was starting to go out.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't happen in this case.
Well,
How fresh a piano do they get? But I suppose as they go along, they could potentially. Nobody comes out and plays the same piano the other guy just did.
no.
They probably wheel another one in.
They will. Well, they get a choice, but between recitals, they always have a technician coming out there, messing with it.
If anything goes out bad. During the competition.
Yeah, during the competition, there's always somebody out there. They check out the piano.
Yeah.
Is this the one that they look at the one that the competitor chooses.
I wonder how they did
before
this.
they come out, they always make sure it's in working condition.
When Van Cliburn did that, hosting the Celebration of Pianists.
Yeah.
Now it's edited in such a way that it looks like same stage, same instrument, and they come out, but they come out one after the other.
Yeah.
I don't remember now, but I remember seeing Lazar Berman.
Yeah.
Playing. I think he's in that video.
Yeah.
I would not want to play the same piano after Lazar Berman. I've been banging the shit out of it. Because that guy, I've got his Unnated Pèlerinage. I bought it as a LP set back when I had the RCA.
Yeah. So did
subscription thing.
Yeah.
And one of the impressive things about it is the profound sonorities that he gets from the instrument. Now, after I was studying with Ellsworth and stuff, one might say it's kind of banging, a bit ugly.
Yeah.
Not as bad as Nirachadze in those recordings late in life.
Oh, but
similarly, that profound, huge, orchestral-like sonority. I mean, Nirachadze gets some sounds out of that piano which are
But it's
just
otherworldly,
unbelievable.
though.
It's incredible.
It's otherworldly.
And
It really is.
Barron would get it as well. Now, unfortunately, he liked his drink apparently,
Yeah.
and apparently he kind of burned out his own candle eventually
Yeah.
because. But he had a period, and they sent him over here to the States,
Yeah.
and he was doing these things back in the Soviet days. But I was just saying, I would not want to sit down and have to play the piano after
yeah.
Behrman had been on it for 40
Yeah.
minutes. No way. Because
The one I wouldn't want is George Bollett.
oh yeah,
George Bollett, yeah, he
Heavy
pulls out
handed.
his sound too. Listen to this Carnegie Hall recital.
yeah.
Did you ever listen to that?
But when he's
Holy
older, there's
moly.
some performances
He's
he's played
played-
where
The Tom
this
Miller
left
Overture,
yeah.
you know.
But there's also some beautiful sensitive playing.
Oh yeah,
There's I think it's on video. I knew I saw it. He
Yeah.
plays 6 left-hand etudes of Godowsky.
Godowsky.
He studied with Godowsky.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful.
Oh yeah.
I know he did some big. He was a big Liszt player. In fact,
Yeah.
I told you that time. Chemistry, big shot guy at the University of Wisconsin, invited me over to his house
Yeah.
to play. He wanted to hear me play because I was playing a lot of Liszt at that time with Howard. I did the Funeral and the Second Ballad.
Yeah.
He specifically paid me as a grad student, master's student, $150 to come over and play a private concert for him in his music room, and he had George Bollett's Bechstein grand concert grand that he used to record the Liszt's famous Liszt album that he did in London.
Whoa.
And it was the same instrument. And it's interesting that it was a Bechstein because Bollett was usually a Baldwin pianist.
Yeah.
In the United States anyway.
He was.
But he used this Bechstein to play it, and I don't know how he got his hands on it, but it was his pride and joy. He got this Bechstein. And he told me he went to the concert. He always liked to come hear me play. And Ellsworth had started these 12:15 to 1 on Fridays. Friday noon musicale, they called it. And the church, it was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, Unitarian Universalist Church. By that time, the university campus had grown out and even gone along the lake farther west.
Mm-hmm.
But the church now was like laying within the campus, in a sense. And a bunch of professors and people would come over at lunchtime, and people would sit in the back, these Frank Lloyd Wright design tables, and have their little sack lunches, eat, and listen to the music. It was free for people to do. And then they had their choice of a host of great graduate students that often would use that as a way to try out some of their music before they had to do a real recital. And I played, well, you'd like to come and hear me play. And then I did this concert where I played the Second Ballad of the Funeral. And he said, I'd like you to come over. He says, I have George Bollett's Bechstein in my house. Get out of here.
Did he sign it?
No.
Oh, okay.
But he had the papers and everything to prove
it.
Everything.
Okay. Wow.
And a serial number and everything.
Wow.
But it's the very same one that he used to do that famous Liszt album in London. It was an interesting experience. Way too big a piano for the room I was in. But I played I played it like I was in a big hall. He was sitting back there like that guy in the Maxell commercial.
Yeah.
He would smile. It's like, wow, you just blew the whole room apart, man.
Is it real or Memorex?
Exactly. But I mean, that was good money back then. The guy just handed me $150 in cash.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow, not so bad.
So
anyways,
we got the Russian Israeli.
Russian Israeli guy.
With the colors.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'd asked about the pianos they used.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Now,
They have many choices? I mean, like there's Faziolis and Shigeru.
I'm sure they did.
Like
I'm sure they did.
They have access to almost anything they want to play.
Pretty much. I mean, there's at least 5 or 6 pianos out there.
Piano makers.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah. I think.
Dude, can you ever see the name? They often hide that.
It's hard to do.
Advertising.
It's hard. I
reasons.
mean, it's there, but it's.
And sometimes it's on the side of the piano, but they even white that out so you can't see it.
I think there was at least 2 Steinways, but they were different. One was like a Steinway D, and then another one was maybe a Steinway something else.
American or Hamburg? Would you know?
I couldn't tell. So, but anyways, I made it to the first round of the finals. The first guy I played was the what's his name from China. His last name's Sham. can't remember the first name. It doesn't sound very Chinese. Sham, S-H-A-M, but he's Chinese.
Huh.
So, but he opens with the Mendelssohn first.
No way.
Yeah, that's the first concerto.
You know, somebody
first.
did memorable recordings of the Mendelssohn's.
Yes.
Sirkin,
Sirkin?
yeah, with Philadelphia Orchestra.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both of the D minor. Is it D minor?
D minor and G minor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Number 2 was
performances.
D minor.
That guy played. It's almost like you got your fingers stuck in an electric circuit.
Rudolph?
Sirkin.
Yeah.
It's kind of, and I was a while back. I was listening to a recording of his of the Emperor Concerto.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It has line.
He was one of those that he didn't have. Well, but then it was interesting because I remember sometime there's a book that we own, right?
Yeah.
And they were part of it is they were looking at really interesting, unusual, and surprising programs by certain kind of artists. And there was a program where Sirkin played all the Chopin etudes. Sirkin. Now this is a guy, that's known for the whole Central European stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of like Brindle, mostly. I mean, Brindle played a lot of stuff originally, a lot of Liszt.
Yeah.
Still did later on in his career, but, we were mostly thinking of it as Mozart, Beethoven, and Mozart, Beethoven, Schubert.
Yeah.
I don't think of Brindle as Brahms, though, and definitely not Chopin.
No, but he's played some.
But it was interesting that Sirkin, because, Sirkin actually was known representing a certain kind of school.
Yeah.
And tended to train people like that, in that repertoire. Because, some of those recordings are extraordinary.
Yeah.
So he plays the D minor concerto.
G
minor
number 1.
First one.
So that's the first, and that's as far as I got.
Oh, that's all they did so far.
So
You're
I
watching
couldn't
them
watch
after
it.
the fact?
Yeah,
Because they recorded.
because they already they're pre-recorded already.
Oh,
they're going to, at this point they are probably at about round 4. I'm thinking at this point, and I'm not that.
How many people play the same evening? Is it in the evening?
Pretty much.
So how many performances does the audience get to see? 2, maybe?
Maybe 2. Yeah.
So there's 6 of them, so it's 3 nights.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Because
they started yesterday.
You know what's being planned?
I'm sorry?
What people are planning to play? Have you heard?
I have not.
So they don't.
No, they don't. They don't reveal that till they live stream it.
Who's conducting the orchestra this year?
Myron Allsop.
She's back there.
She's back there. But they also got another guy.
Is she sitting on the jury?
No, I don't know if she is. I don't know if she is. But there's another guy that's been conducting. I noticed him in the semifinals round. He was doing the Mozarts. So she's not doing it all, but this guy is doing the Mozarts. So.
She's done well in her life.
Oh yeah,
she used to conduct the Colorado Symphony when I was living out there, and did some great things.
Oh yeah,
got to meet her personally. She studied with Bernstein.
Yeah, I know.
She's one of his earlier female students.
Yeah, I have her complete barber.
Really?
Yeah, it's on Naxos. What an amazing performances.
Well, then she disappeared. Well, she was in Baltimore for a long time. Then she went down to South America.
Yeah.
And then she's conducting, is she still doing this? The I forget what their exact name is, but the Austrian Radio Orchestra.
Yeah.
Similar to like the orchestra in Munich that is known more having been created as a radio orchestra. But she's really good. And I saw something in the news about her recently. She's teaching or overseeing something with.
Yeah.
Maybe she's at one of the big festivals up in the Northeast.
Yeah. I don't know.
She's done remarkably well.
Yes. Well, I am going to have my eyes glued Friday night to find out who the winners are.
It's going to be announced this week.
It'll be announced tomorrow night. So.
Oh, this is Thursday.
Tomorrow night's the day. So before we adjourn here, I want to at least go into one part of our program, or traditionally, PSI's All Pieces Considered.
Ooh, that's the type. That's the type. Right. Is that also?
That's the lead.
Oh, that's right.
It's in 7 seconds.
Okay. No.
I think you'll like this piece.
Okay. All right, we're back.
Okay, this is going to be a quickie, folks. But we talked about this fellow fairly briefly a couple times. You have this book up here, The Artist's Technique
Oh,
by Frank Sinucci.
yeah.
And I said,
Why don't you show them that? This is an interesting book.
Yes, it's a very interesting.
I have a collection of various piano technique type books. I was looking at this one.
Yeah.
It's been the same one's been sitting on the piano for a while because I haven't been able to practice with my injury.
Yeah.
But
It looks very good.
yeah,
It looks
well
very
put together.
good. Well done here.
But I couldn't remember quite well. I thought he was a composer as well, and I thought I knew I must have something from him somewhere in my archive somewhere. And I went looking, and lo and behold, this is what I found.
Cool.
It is cool. I would have been on the piano all the time if I had a book that looked something like this.
Well, he is associated with like teaching books.
Yeah,
Sanucci. So this is really cool. You got to show him. And this is the Willis Music Company.
yeah,
They're still in business
yeah. They are.
down in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Wow, this looks cool. It looks kind of really cool
yeah,
the way it's written.
yeah. It is.
Have you played through them?
Yeah.
I bet this is impossible to find.
Oh, it is very impossible to find. What? Oh, absolutely.
We know you didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Okay, now show
I
them.
did.
It's really cool. And this is back in the days when they had,
Yeah.
show them both the
But look
front
at
and the
this though.
back.
But did you see this?
Yeah.
10 piano solos in the earlier grades by Frank Sinucci.
But I
Earlier
would say,
grades.
looking at this, is an intermediate-ish.
Would you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, back.
But let them see the cover first.
Okay. This is the cover, folks.
And then the back end, too. This is beautiful.
Look at this.
Printing and artwork at one
Yeah.
time in music scores. You know. It's a very cool cover.
Yeah. And look at the illustrations here.
Big part of the draw
ink,
for the kids.
ink drawings here. Look at this. Just the opening. Dance of the Skeletons.
That's like Willis
Right
Music published John Thompson's.
Yeah. But I like these better.
And they always have these wonderful like ink drawing or even what they
Look at this.
put like
The sunken bell. Look at that illustration. Sunken bell. Boy, if I had this book as a kid, I would think I would have practiced all.
Every camera, love the pieces and everything.
The Werewolf of Farinetta. Look at that.
Cool thing to see if you're as a kid. And I know you don't want to do this to it because
What?
of its historical value. But if I had this book when I was a kid, I would have colored in all the scenes with my crayons.
Oh, heartbreak.
No!
No.
No! To make it more come alive.
I don't know. I think.
It didn't
Look
do this.
Look how
All that.
scary
That's
that
too black.
looks.
Yeah.
I mean, look how scary that looks. And even the
But see,
werewolf.
that's possible. I didn't make the moon just like bright yellow.
Yeah, you would, but I prefer black and white ink drawings.
Yeah.
This is scary as it by itself.
And it says a lot about character there.
Yeah, yeah. You want color. Look at this. I mean, that's like, I don't know. I mean, that's like Buckland's Isle of the Dead. I mean,
Well,
it's
it
an ink
took me for a
drawing.
while and I colored it for you.
No, you will not put a crayon on this at all, my friend. I mean, I love you, but I don't love you that much. Look at that. That's beautiful. Look at that. The Inn of Fear. Oh, the Dungeon of Horror. Look at that.
You know, I looked at the pieces, and I mean, cumulatively, I'm thinking of. Now, some of them are more difficult. But the what are the pieces called? The sarcasms or what is it that Prokofiev wrote?
Oh, Vision Fugitives.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
Some
heard
of
a
those
few of those at
some of those
competition
are more
too.
accessible than others.
Oh yeah.
Some of them are, difficult, but
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't say monumentally difficult. They're not the Sixth Sonata difficult.
Oh no.
But would you play these in your own concert
No.
as a whole set of pieces? I think it could be kind of cool.
It could be cool, but it's not
Maybe
for
what I
me.
do is I do them as a music video on YouTube.
Perhaps, yeah. And I'm not sure, but I think somewhere in my archives I might have this one.
The Swamp of Fear.
The Swamp of Fear. Boy, this guy wants to scare
Oh,
us.
listen to this. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
This guy is very enterprising. He has American Seed, Ghost Town, 8 piano solos depicting America's past, jungle scenes, The Swamp of Fear, the Okefenokee Swamp Suite for piano, and Western Holiday Suite for piano. So this is 1928. Yeah, so, this is getting into the time. I think of it more as the 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
But we were doing this because I've got that old book collection of American compositions.
Yeah.
It helped. I think it was especially stimulating when Antonin Dvorak, he had a huge influence on American classical music culture.
Absolutely.
He came over to the States 1880s or something like that.
Yeah.
He was based in the East for a while. I think it was probably New York, Philadelphia, something like that. But then importantly, he went to Iowa because there's a huge Czech population in Iowa.
Yeah.
And he was there. I think he was in the States for at least 6 months.
Oh, at least that.
And there was stuff was written up. And I mean, he was like, this is the latter part of his life and career when he was like the Brahms of the Czech people. Right?
Oh, yeah.
People were making comparisons between the two of them.
Yep.
He had that kind of celebrity. And I really think, because he wrote the New World Symphony, was influenced by American tunes that he heard.
Yeah, Indian songs.
What was it? Da, da, da,
yeah, that was taken from an Indian song.
And then Busoni wrote those Indian sketches.
Yeah.
And I think, is it Dover's book, right? 19th Century American Piano Music?
Might be.
Is that the thing? I've got two different one's older.
Okay.
Like it's published back in the 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
And then there's one that I have that goes in probably the 60s because it's got Roy Harris and some stuff in it.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking that Americans were writing music, piano music stuff. It seemed to take off more in the later 19th century. I think that's because we were a bit more settled as a culture. There was more money.
Oh, yeah.
Amy Beach comes from that period of time. She went and studied in Europe. Who's the one that CD you just took back?
Olga Samaroff.
Olga Samaroff, despite the name, has nothing to do with Russia. What was her real name?
Hickenlooper.
Hickenlooper from Russia.
Texas. Hickenlooper.
And she studied Leszczynski, wasn't it?
Yeah, she did.
But she went as a kid to study in Paris, right?
Yeah, she did.
And then she studied with Leszczynski.
Yeah.
She had a big career.
Yeah,
and one of her important students, when she was based in New York, was a young Willie Capel.
Yep.
So there was some really cool stuff, but I especially feel a certain pride when I hear American music that comes between the 20s and 40s.
Yeah.
Big influence on that was Copland, having studied with Nadia Boulanger. But then, it's because of the politics.
Yeah. Barber.
It was opposed to what was beginning to happen in, fascist Europe.
Yeah.
With the Italians and the Germans. And then while we were friends with the Ruskies, immediately when the war was over, we weren't.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of competition and stuff. There's some wonderful stuff that was created if you don't know about it. Especially Aaron Copland and Martha Graham the dancer. Some wonderful videos. Martha Graham didn't create modern dance, but she certainly was one of the pioneers in modern dance. Very different thing from what you think of as the great Russian ballet kind of style of dancing. But she did some wonderful works. Some of the music that we know of Copland was my favorite piece.
Copland?
Yeah.
The piano work?
Well, it is actually, but no, it's for small ensemble orchestra. They wrote these
Appalachian Spring.
Appalachian Spring. Oh my God! Yeah. And then some of the other ones, El Salón Mexico. And I think there's 3 or 4 big ones.
Yeah,
where
there's
the music
Lincoln's Portrait.
Yeah, well, that's different.
Yeah,
I'm thinking the ones Rodeo that he wrote for the ballet.
Yeah, Belly the Kid.
And some of these people came along. So there's Samuel Barber, there's Roy Harris.
Yeah. Martin Gould.
Martin Gould. I mean, a bunch of different people. Then you get into John Cage. I think is becoming more internationally
Yeah.
influenced in terms of what he did. Oh, what a really great one was Harry Parch. You know who that was?
Say that again.
Harry Parch.
No.
Harry Parch. Wow. Even Gunnar knew him. And they were part of that whole Black Mountain kind of artist colony thing in the summertime.
Right.
Gunnar was participating in that. It was down in North Carolina, where Buckminster Fuller and all these very forward-thinking people were getting together and working with students. John Cage wrote his first happenings for the people.
Yeah.
So, Bucky Fuller and Harry Parch, everybody had to participate.
Yeah.
And they all did their thing in the happening.
Yeah.
The hippies eventually took over that and became something different. But Harry Parch and John Cage both came out of California. And Harry Parch was really cool because he was, one might say, this was very popular, especially in the early 20th century. There were a lot of strong, not Russian, not even European socialists. There was an American kind of socialist movement that believed in socialism as a real democratic potential for making for more equality economically and strengthening people. So there were some communities. I knew a guy in Yellow Springs who, two guys that were in Yellow Springs, they'd grown up separately up in New England, but they'd grown up in communities that were intentional communities that were created by socialists. Milwaukee had Germanic, they all because it came from Germany, but they had socialist mayors for over 100 years until like the 1970s or 80s in Milwaukee. But it's just interesting to me historically and culturally that Harry Parch was one of these people who was very convinced of the idea that true American democracy and an American understanding of socialism would work well together to make for a strong society and a more equal society. To get rid of those 1% people because it wasn't fair, it wasn't right. But musically, and I think he had some influence in John Cage this way, he used found materials in junkyards to make percussion instruments.
Oh, gee, wow.
And there's some really cool stuff. And some of his instruments, now people have remade them because, he wrote down all the engineering plans and everything for him. And there's recordings. If you're at all interested, Harry Parch, I think it's P-A-R-T-C-H.
P-A-R-T-C.
He was elder to John Cage. But I'm thinking, California, a lot of stuff came out of there. Henry Cowell.
Yeah.
He was the one that did, the banshee on the piano where you make it woo and the strings and all that stuff. He did the first stuff of playing inside the piano, the strings and all that. John Cage went on to do stuff like that, especially with the prepared piano. And then George Crumb came along and did these wonderful pieces. Although I also always thought Crumb was just reinventing the light bulb as far as he was concerned. But I think magnificent pieces that they wrote. But really cool stuff. And I especially when I hear Copland and some of the music, it's interesting, there was Nadia Boulanger that did so much to influence all these different international composers. Piazzolla. But what instrument do you play down there? And he brought his bandoneon in, played it for her, and she said, that's what you should do. This wonderful French influence. Copland came in, and at the time, he was writing serial music. Why are you writing this? This is European stuff. This is what they do, right? What do you have in America? And she said, what about all the wonderful folk music and all the stuff that you have? She's the one that turned him on to this. Because if you listen to serious Copland before he studied with Boulanger, isn't it even the piano concerto at the beginning? Or no, but isn't it right? Oh, it's a sonata, right?
Which one?
Well, it's basically 12-tone stuff.
Oh, the 12-tone stuff?
That's the sonata, isn't it?
No, the sonata still has jazz idioms. If you're talking...
it's one of the big pieces.
You're talking Piano Fantasy.
That has
way more surrealistic material.
But then he comes back and all of a sudden, my God, I cannot listen to Appalachian Spring without crying. The music, especially near the end when the strings, and when you see it danced with Martha Graham's equal genius.
Oh, wow. I'll definitely have to look for it.
It's incredible. So, anyway, did we have a good time today?
We had a
I had a great time. I had jabbering like crazy. Pushing us beyond our boundaries.
Well, we haven't done this in a while.
Yeah, but
Oh,
But
it's
you have to
great.
take this into account.
What?
He's going to jabber all the time if we don't meet more often.
It doesn't bother me. It's fine. It's fine.
I had a great time.
I hope you all enjoyed
And I
our
thought
show
this was
today.
very apropos because we're talking about the Van Cliburn
Yeah,
competition.
absolutely. And I even got to show you my neat stuff.
When I can't, I want to.
Yeah, I know. We'll talk. We'll play.
Okay.
We'll play and we'll talk.
Okay.
No coloring.
I'm
So,
not calling.
Anyways, come back again. Find out what we're playing,
What we're doing.
what we're playing, what we're practicing, what we're listening to. So come back for more stuff. If you like us, please give us a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah. I have a suggestion we could do. We talked about addressing certain technical books and
Yeah.
doing some projects like that.
Yeah.
We never really did that. We did do the Joseph V book.
Yeah, we
right?
did do the Joseph. We were going to do the
Les
Limer.
and Carl Limer. Yeah. Geese
and,
King.
yeah, Geese King. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Maybe we should think about that, especially with spaces in between.
yeah.
Because when we do it weekly, we're kind of like, and he's usually coming up with a program.
Yeah.
So we're, and sometimes I bring stuff in, but if we have a little time in between,
Yeah.
we could, and it doesn't have to be just one show.
Yeah.
Especially the bigger book. Like
Yeah.
Lash Disc is going to take a few times.
Okay, folks.
Yeah.
Come back and see us again. This is,
I'm Dr. Mark,
and I am Elmer,
Mr. Elmer.
and
We are Mark and Elmer's PSI Piano Scene Investigations.
Say bye, boys.
Goodbye! Say bye, Turkey.
Good boys.
See ya.